Hi guys, last lesson of the week. We're off on Good Friday, so this lesson won't actually be due until Tuesday after Easter. It's a nice long weekend for us. But this is on geometric progressions. We talked about arithmetic progressions, and I told you that arithmetic looks like arithmetic, like plus, minus, that kind of thing. Well, today's geometric progressions are not adding, but they're multiplying. So that's why I mentioned that arithmetic sounds like arithmetic so that you can keep them straight. Arithmetic is adding, geometric is multiplying. So arith is adding and geometric is multiplying. Alright, so on page 535, 91.1 says, find the fifth term, so we're looking for A5, in a geometric sequence whose first term is -2 and whose common ratio is -3. Notice it's not a common difference, it's a common ratio because it's being multiplied. So the formula for A5 is A1, but not add, but multiply times r to the fourth power. And I'll show you why. A1 is A1. That's the first term. A2 would be A1 times r to the first. A3 would be A1 times r to the second. A4 is A1 times r to the third. So you can see each time the power on the ratio is one less than whatever the term is. So A5 is A1 times r to the fourth. So in this case, A5 is going to be A1, which is -2, times r to the fourth power. So A5 will be equal to -2 times -3 to the fourth is going to be a positive. 3 times 3 is 9, 81. So it'll be equal to a -162. All right. On page 536, find 3 geometric means between 4 and 64. So we put 3 numbers between 4 and 64. So this is A1. This would be A2, A3, A4. This is A5. And remember, the formula for A5 is A1 times r to the fourth. And we know that that's equal to 64. We also know that A1 is 4. So if we put in 4 for A1 and solve it for r, so divide both sides by 4, r to the fourth is equal to 16. And what's the fourth root of 16? Well, in the first place, it's an even root, so this is going to be a plus or a minus 2, correct? So what does that mean for us? That means not only are we going to have 3 geometric means, but we're going to have 2 possibilities. So we'll use the positive 2 first. Going back up here. 4 times positive 2 is 8. Times positive 2 is 16. Times positive 2 is 32. Times positive 2 is 64. Now we'll go back and use the -2. 4 times -2 is -8. Times -2 is positive 16. Times -2 is -32. Times -2 is positive 64. So both of these are solutions. Those are both 2 sets of geometric means between 4 and 64. Now the only time that's going to occur is when you're solving for r and it's an even numbered power, because that's where we get the plus and minus that comes in. If it's an odd numbered power right here, you'll only have one set of solutions, but if it's an even one, you will have plus and minus. Okay, so the next one says, find two geometric means between 2 and 1/4. So this is A1, A2, A3, A4. And the formula for A4 is A1R to the third. And we know that's equal to 1/4. And we also know that A1 is equal to 2. So 1/4 is equal to 2r cubed. Divide both sides by 2, which means the same as multiply by 1/2. So r cubed is equal to 1/8. And this time it's a cube root. There is no plus or minus to a cube root. It's simply the same sign as whatever this is. And because it's positive, the cube root is 1/2. So we take that r and we multiply. 2 times 1/2 is 1. 1 times 1/2 is 1/2. And 1/2 times 1/2 equals the 1/4. So that's a little check that we can do, is just multiply this term by the r and make sure that we end up with the number that we're supposed to end up with at the end. Okay, one more example. And it's on top of page 537. 91.4 says find three geometric means, 1, 2, 3, between -16 and -1. Alright, so we've got, this is A1, A2, A3, A4, and A5. So the formula for A5 is A1R to the 4th power, always one less. And that we know is equal to -1. We also know that A1 is -16, minus 16r to the 4th. So divide both sides by -16. So 1/16 is equal to r to the 4th, and now take the 4th root of that. So r, it's an even numbered power again, so we're going to end up with plus or minus, the 4th root of 16 is 2, so it's plus and minus 1/2. So I go back up here, and because it's plus and minus, I'm going to just put another set of lines there, because I do have two sets of geometric means in here. So I start by saying, I'll use the positive first. So -16 times +1/2 is -8. -8 times +1/2 is -4. -4 times +1/2 is -2. And -2 times +1/2 is -1. Alright, then go back and use the -1/2. So -16 times -1/2 would be +8. +8 times -1/2 would be -4. -4 times -1/2 would be +2. And +2 times -1/2 would be the -1. Alright, so there's the two sets of geometric means that we get